Here is a sad story I found on Reddit. Growing up, I always believed my father hated me, or at the very least, that he deeply regretted my existence. He was a silent, distant man who worked 16-hour shifts at a dusty, loud manufacturing plant on the edge of town. He smelled of cold grease, cheap cigarettes, and an exhaustion so deep it seemed to settle into his very bones, making him look more like a ghost than a living person. When he was home, he barely looked at me. He sat in his worn-out armchair in the corner of the living room, staring blankly at the television screen with unseeing eyes, completely closed off from the world. I used to think I was the problem. I thought my laughter was too loud, my grades weren't high enough, or my very presence reminded him of the financial burden of raising a child. I vividly remember one rainy afternoon when I was 7 years old. I had drawn a picture of us holding hands under a big yellow sun. I ran up to his chair, buzzing with excitement, and proudly held it out to him. He didn't even look at it. He just sighed, a heavy, rattling sound, and gently pushed my hand away before closing his eyes. That was the day I stopped trying. While other kids had fathers who took them to baseball games, taught them how to drive, or held them when they cried, my father was just a shadow that drifted in and out of the front door in the dark. The silence between us became a physical barrier, thick and suffocating, and over the years, I learned to stop trying to cross it. I eventually packed my bags, went to college across the country, and rarely called. I convinced myself that he wouldn't care anyway, that my absence was probably a relief to his wallet and his peace of mind. Then, 3 months ago, I got the call from my mother. His heart had finally given out, quiet and sudden, in that same worn-out armchair. I flew back for the funeral, expecting to feel a wave of grief, but all I felt was a hollow, empty numbness. It was the funeral of a stranger. After the service, my mother asked me to help her clear out his old workbench in the garage, a place I had been strictly forbidden from entering as a child. The garage was freezing, smelling of rust, old wood, and the damp soil from the garden outside. As I began boxing up his rusted wrenches and outdated tools, my hand brushed against a loose wooden panel behind his workbench. I pulled at it, and a small, dusty metal tackle box slid out. When I opened it, there was no fishing gear inside. Instead, it was stuffed to the brim with yellowed, dog-eared notebooks, dozens of them, dating all the way back to the year I was born. I opened the very first notebook, and my breath caught in my throat. Every single page was addressed to me. He had written in them every single night, in his messy, cramped handwriting, right after he got home from his grueling shifts. He wrote about how his chest physically ached when he looked at me, because he wanted so desperately to be the father I deserved. But his own childhood had been so filled with physical abuse and cold silence that he was terrified of breaking me. He wrote about the rainy day when I brought him the drawing of the yellow sun. He wrote, "Today, my beautiful child brought me a drawing. It was so beautiful it made my chest hurt. I wanted to pull them into my arms and cry, but my hands were covered in chemical grease and rust from the factory floor, and I was so dirty, so exhausted, and so afraid that my rough touch would only ruin their pure joy. I had to push them away. It broke my heart, but I am too broken to be the father they need." He wrote about how he would stand outside my bedroom door for hours while I slept, just listening to me breathe, wishing he had the courage to open the door and hug me, but fearing his heavy, dark presence would only bring nightmares into my room. He kept track of every little milestone I ever reached: the day I learned to ride a bike, the day I won a middle school spelling bee, the day I graduated high school. He wrote about how he sat in the very back row of the auditorium, hiding behind a concrete pillar so I wouldn't feel embarrassed by his dusty, stained work clothes, crying tears of absolute pride as I walked across the stage. There were pages and pages of him begging the universe to let me have a better, happier life than the one he was trapped in, even if it meant I grew up hating him for his distance. In the very last notebook, dated just days before his heart failed, he wrote, "My sweet child, I know you are far away now, and I know you look back at me with anger. I don't blame you, but please know that every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, and every silent hour was my clumsy, broken way of saying I love you. I kept my distance so you wouldn't have to carry my darkness. I hope you are free." I sat on the cold concrete floor of that garage, clutching those dusty notebooks to my chest, and cried until my throat was raw. I spent 24 years believing I was unlovable, only to realize I had been loved with a fierce, quiet intensity that I was too blind to see. He spent his entire life sacrificing his own happiness to build a shield for me, protecting me from his own trauma, but in doing so, he became the shadow I feared. Now, he is gone, and I will never get to look into his tired eyes, hold his rough hands, and tell him that I finally understand. I am left with a box of paper, a lifetime of regret, and the heartbreaking realization that the most profound love of my life was a love that chose to remain entirely in the dark.